magical beings, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Sarah and I am the Woodland Witch. This video was supposed to come out quite some time ago, so I appreciate your patience and we're here now, so that's all that matters. In today's video, we are going to cover the basics of crafting a spell, ways that you might want to carry out the spell, tools and items that you can use, and how to go about performing these spells and rituals. So the first thing to really think about when you're wanting to craft a spell is your intention. Be very, very specific with what it is that you're wanting to do. Your intention is going to kind of open the door to crafting the rest of the spell. There are a ton of different ways you can go about executing your spells. They can be as simple or as intricate as you choose. Everything from simply blowing eggshells at your front door to crafting a spell jar with 25 different ingredients. It's really up to you. So once you've discovered kind of what you want your intention to be and you've gotten really specific, you know exactly what it is that you're wanting to work for, you can then think about what kind of spell you're wanting to perform. Whether that is a jar spell, a candle spell, simmer pot potion, or even a charm bag. When I'm deciding what method I want to use when it comes to spell work, I always like to consider the dynamics of the method. When I think about a spell jar, I think about something being stuck inside or attached to it. So for something like protection and warding, it will be crafted to hold on to that energy and trap that energy. I also consider that they are usually kept for a significant amount of time. So I will craft a spell jar for something that I'm wanting to carry out for an extended period of time. Consistent abundance flowing into the home, or as I stated before, something for protection that's meant to be in place for a while. Candle spells can either be fast acting or a little bit of a slow burn. You can set an intention into a 7-day candle and have that burning for an extended period of time, or you can simply use a chime candle and put that intention out very quickly. So I always like to consider the dynamics of different methods of spell work to see what might fit my intention best, as well as what's going to fit the timeline that I'm trying to work within. Once you've decided what your intention is, the method of spell that you're trying to work with, and your timeline, you can begin to gather your tools. Now, as I said, spellcrafting can be as intricate or as simple as the crafter desires. There are certain intentions that you're going to want to maybe be a little bit more extensive with. For intentions such as warding and protection, the way that I see it is the more items, the more intricate that it is, the better the defense and the stronger the barrier. So that's something to consider as well when you are choosing what tools and ingredients you're wanting to use. When choosing your items, you're also going to want to consider the correspondences. Everything we utilize in our magical practice has some sort of correspondence. Herbs, crystals, fruits, vegetables, even the pots that you are cooking in, stainless steel, copper, all of these items hold their own correspondences. There's a lot of different ways that you can research for your correspondences. You can simply go on the internet, type in your intention and correspondences of that intention. If you have a specific herb or item already, you can simply just look at what the properties of those specific things are. When choosing my tools, I also like to work intuitively. I really like to sit there and meditate and really see what comes to my mind. A lot of times when I voice my intention out loud and I talk to my spirit team and I say, hey, this is what I'm wanting to do, things will start popping up in my mind, especially with herbs. Sometimes there is an herb that I've had on my shelf for literally ages and I've never used it and it will pop in my head. And when I go look at the correspondences of it, 9 times out of 10 it is something that is going to be beneficial to the working or the intention that I'm trying to set. So see what you have, see what you're feeling drawn to, look up the properties of it, and it may be something that you would be able to utilize. I'm also a firm believer in working with what you have. So take a look around. What tools, what items, what herbs do you have to work with? Look up their properties and you might be able to utilize them somehow. And there's always books. There are 1.5 million witchy books on correspondences. I only have it digitally, but the Llewellyn's Complete Book of Correspondences is incredible. Anything and everything you might need to know the correspondence of is in that book. I will say there's some herbs and things like that that you might not find in there, which is what brings me to these books. 2 of my favorite books when it comes to herbal correspondences are the Master Book of Herbalism by Paul Barrel and Occult Botany by Paul Sater. I hope I'm saying that right. I've recommended the Master Book of Herbalism before. It's really amazing. It goes into a lot of lore and folk remedies. Because I am an herbalist, a lot of my herbal remedies are also spells, so I really like that this kind of covers both of those things. So Occult Botany was actually originally a textbook, and it was written in French and released in 1902. It has since been translated. I really like Occult Botany because it does merge the scientific aspects of different plants and herbs with the ancient traditions and the ways that it was utilized in the occult world. The way that it's set up inside is very similar to the way that this book is set up. This is the Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs by Scott Cunningham. This was the first correspondence book I ever had. One thing I really like about it is in the back, it does list the intentions. So instead of building your spell ingredient by ingredient and correspondence by correspondence, you can simply look up the intention in the back of this book, and it will have a complete list of herbs that you can utilize for the specific intention you're trying to set. Now you can also look up correspondences for the specific type of magic that you're trying to utilize. If you're working with folk magic, if you're working with kitchen witchery, you can look up books like these. This is Kitchen Witch by Sarah Robinson. There's some correspondences in here all surrounding kitchen witchcraft. So while these items might have other correspondences elsewhere, it goes specifically into how they are utilized in the kitchen. Wild Witchcraft by Rebecca Byer is also another great book. This is definitely geared more towards folk magic and folk healing and herbalism. And this gives a lot of correspondences for different herbs, as well as how they were utilized in different folk traditions. And folk traditions is where we get a lot of the correspondences that we have now. There's also tons of books on correspondences of crystals and stones. I just don't have any. I'm not a huge crystal guru, but if you do utilize crystals in your craft, there are resources for that as well. You don't need a ton of tools, just use what you have. You can go outside, see what's in your area, see what their correspondences are and how they might be able to benefit your spell in some way. Another thing to think about with correspondences is magical timing. Phases of the moon and days of the week all have different correspondences. Thursdays are Jupiter Day, prosperity, expansion, abundance. Friday, Venus Day, self-love, self-care, love magic, romance. You have astrological transits, so many different ways to utilize timing in your craft. So once you've chosen your intention, you might want to perform that ritual or spell on a day of the week that corresponds or with one of those moon phases. And that will add just a little bit of a boost and energy to the working. Okay, so we've chosen our intention, we have our ingredients, and we know what kind of spell we want to do. Let's set that intention. So when putting your spell together, energy work is very important as you're doing it and spending time with it after. Some people are very visual when it comes to performing a spell. Others are very verbal, speaking that incantation out loud, speaking intentions over each ingredient one by one. I'm a little bit of both. It just depends on what kind of spell that I'm doing. I will say I lean more into the verbal direction. Writing incantations flows really easily for me. So as I'm putting my ingredients together, I talk to them, I spend time with them, I let them know what their role is going to play in this specific working. Once everything's put together, I speak my incantation over it. I do this more than once and I spend a lot of time doing it. Sometimes it almost becomes a chant and I'm just speaking it over and over and over again. And that is how I exchange energy with my spell. As I said, some people are more visual. They will sit there and see the spell in their mind's eye, imagine that intention coming to fruition, or imagine something tethering themselves to the spell working as it's being performed. So do whatever feels right to you in the moment. Those are both very great ways to put forth energy into your spell working. How long you spend with your spell is really up to you. As I said, it's important to put energy forth into it and to spend time with it. Things like candle magic, I usually stick around till the end, unless it's something more long-term like a 7-day candle or like a Genki candle I have enchanted for a specific intention for my home. Those all have energy set prior and are kind of just like set it and forget it afterwards. You can also use different combinations of your methods. I just posted a psychic ability charm bag. I will also utilize candle magic with my charm bags just as a way to charge them up with the intention that I'm trying to set. So you can combine different methods if that's something that works for you. Remember, as intricate or as simple as you want them to be. The final thing you're going to want to remember once your spell is carried out is to write everything down. Now, not every spell you're going to do is going to work, or it's not going to come to fruition maybe in the way that you expected it to. This is why it's important to write everything down. What ingredients you used, what kind of spell was it, what was the timing that it was done. Write it down, journal about it. Once you start noticing this intention coming to fruition, you can work with that spell, tweak it if you need to, or maybe do something completely different entirely. Writing it down gives you an opportunity to reflect and change anything that may need to be changed. Maybe you need to be a little bit more specific with your intention, or you find that a specific ingredient might work better than something else. There's going to be a lot of trial and error when it comes to spell crafting, but being able to go back and reflect is a great way for you to learn and to grow and to expand your craft. All right, everyone, that is our spell crafting 101 video. This is how I go about crafting my spells. There are many different ways to go about it. You might see somebody else do it differently, and maybe you even do it a little bit differently. You might prioritize things that I don't and vice versa, but I hope that this video helped you and inspired you to get crafting. As always, thanks for being here, and I will see you in the next one.